Unapologetically black. I'm black, capital A, capital F. I love black women. Hennessy, black with no chaser.
What comes to mind is no cut cards. We're not holding back anything as black people, regardless of whatever the struggles, regardless of whatever pain, everything that we pretty much felt in 2020. Black with no chaser represents we not holding nothing back 2021. Everything they said we couldn't get, we coming to get.
Really appreciate y'all. This has been one of the most amazing interviews I've ever done.
Well, I like this Black with No Chaser radio station.
Yo, what's good, everybody, man? It's your boy Cirillo. I'm in the building with my homegirl Sika, and we back again for another episode of the Black Lunch Break. Today, we got Marshall Hatch Jr. of the MAAFA Redemption Project in Chicago coming through today to drop all the knowledge about everything and all the work that they're doing in the community and their involvement in the hit show and Oscar-nominated film, Judas and the Black Messiah. Tap in. All right, for sure.
Nice to meet you, sister. Is it Sika?
That's correct, brother. Marshall, that's correct.
Yeah. Yes. Very nice to meet you.
Pleasure meeting you as well. Very excited to get to this conversation with you.
Yeah, I'm honored to be invited. So thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Sure. Well, we have some questions for you. They shouldn't really be. I think if you've been doing the work of MAAFA the way you've been doing the work, it shouldn't really. I mean, we speaking to the horse right here, so it shouldn't really.
That's right.
Much, and glean some information out of you, man. So, but are you born and raised in Chicago?
Born and raised on the west side of Chicago. Yep.
West side.
Yeah, word. My homie, man. My roommate in college. He's from Chicago. He was he's born on the south side of Chicago. He grew up in the 70s, on the south side, and then they eventually moved a little bit further out, in the burbs a little bit, like kind of I think his dad actually lives on 190th in Peoria, like really on the outskirts now. But
where'd you go?
Was ringing, but his grandfather started a chain of cleaners. So my first time in the Chi, true story, I was able to actually, step foot on Chicago White Sox field. Well, not really step foot. That's actually a lie. I was able to walk up to the steps. No, that's when Ozzie Guillen was there as a head coach.
Ozzie, yeah.
And Ozzie walked around in these Daniel Green kind of leather slippers. Yo, he was low key OG with that shit.
Leather slippers, fancy.
Yeah, no, it wasn't no fancy. Like if you ever had Daniel Green, like kind of them kind of joints from like the Walgreens or Marshalls, like that's what he like low key was walking around in. And but he was there walking around, and we came in, dropped off the uniforms because his grandfather's chain of cleaners did all the cleaning for the White Sox, and so it was dope because I played ball and was always I always wanted to try to step foot on the field, but they didn't let me step on the field. They said you could walk right up to the cut, and then that's it. And so damn, that was a moment, man, for real. And it was able to then see the White Sox game. I think it was during the July 4th weekend when they all being representing like the camouflage fatigue and the uniform and stuff like that. Yeah. So it was that time of the year, man. So it was a dope experience. And but I've been in the Chi so many times. I love the Chi though. Summertime Chi for real, some of the best times, man.
You can't, Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah, man. You can't beat it. You can't beat it, dog. But anyway, good to
Welcome to the Black Lunch Break, man.
Yeah, where are y'all?
I'm right now located in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah. Okay, ATL. Okay.
Yeah, man. So I'm in
Where
DC.
are you located right now? Like this magnificent building you're in?
This is our church. This is the church. Yeah, it's historically it's a Catholic building. We got it from the Archdiocese in '93, but we're a Black church, and so we made it our own through stained glass. And so that's one of them. That's actually facing north, but we got two other ones facing east and west.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Especially when we get to take something and literally create the essence of us into it. So I think that's dope.
That's what it means to be Black in America.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And that actually leads us to the opening question to this interview, actually. So welcome to the Black Lunch Break. So happy to have you here, Marshall. Thank you for your time. And we ask every guest as soon as they get on here is, when you hear the words Black with no chaser, what comes to mind?
Oh wow. I think it was James Baldwin who said to be African American is to be African without memory and American without privilege. And I think what we've tried to do on the west side of Chicago is to Sankofa, right? To reach back and to
That's
get
right.
memory, the well-earned wisdom from our ancestors, and carry that with us into the future. And so Black with No Chaser is just that, no holds barred. Whatever space we walk into, the space changes. We are the salt, we are the light. So we don't need a chaser. And so I think that's what it means to me.
Yeah, I like that one. It's funny. I swear to God, every time we seek it, every time we ask that question, I feel like we say it every time.
It's like brace yourself,
But
man. Different
because
answers
you never
every
know what you're gonna
time.
get. You never
Yeah.
know every time, man. Every time. So it's but nah, I
I
appreciate
love
that, brother.
the
That was
name.
very. Thank you, man. Thank
How
you.
did it come
Thank
about?
you.
If you don't mind me asking.
Black with no chaser, man. Just so you know, at least I say this, man, now because I feel like I've been around for a while and I've come to know Black with no chaser. I feel like more intimately than most, and uh, and so I feel like it was born in our hearts initially. You know what I mean? Like that urge and wantingness to really be able to exist and freely and move freely and to really be unapologetic and say that and not only just say it but live it. That's why when we say think black and live black, those things have to work harmoniously if you're really going to actually have Black with no chaser. And so,
Yeah.
but just so you know, man, the brother CJ and Tyson and Chuck, man, they were doing this on. It really started a hashtag. It was just something that we were just doing,
A
and then
viral
so
hashtag at that.
a viral hashtag. So went from like Black with no chaser to then if they gun me down, which is a time hashtag of the year by CJ, our CEO. And then from there, CJ began just calling around people that he knew that he felt like was embodied the spirit of Black with no chaser. And then he hit
Yeah.
me up. And then, a couple of years later, now we had Seek Up. She's been on the team for a year now. And so, but we've grown exponentially. And I feel like we hit a stride
Yeah.
because there was this, I think, again, urge to remove ourselves from this double consciousness that we have this state of constant double consciousness, and
Right.
so to move beyond that and to have these spaces where we can speak freely about our people and our communities, man, has been more liberating than any dollar you can put in anybody's hands. So that's what I would say about
Absolutely.
Black with no
Wow.
chaser.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, no man, thank
That's
you.
rich.
So MAAFA, man, we're gonna give what is MAAFA Redemption Project, man? What's the origin? What does
Yes.
it mean, man? I want to talk
Yeah.
about the logo. I think most
Right.
people who are not familiar with what you all are doing may have seen a logo but don't even understand what it really means. So I want to
Right.
kind of dig into that a little bit, man, and give us an overview about what you all are doing out there in Chicago.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll start with the logo. So this is actually it right here. It may be kind of hard to see, but this is a representation of a 25-foot stained glass window that our church installed into this Catholic building. And after we installed it in 2000, it instantly became the largest iconic display of the Middle Passage, or the MAAFA, in the world. We learned that from an art historian out of Cornell University named Cheryl Finley. And when she came, she kind of walked us through the history. The bottom deck of a slave ship. This was actually produced as a broadside by British abolitionists in the late 18th century to expose the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade. But it was my father, who was the pastor of this church. He's been the pastor since 1993, who stumbled upon an artist named Tom Fillings, the late Tom Fillings, but a great art historian and artist. He's actually a product of the Harlem Renaissance and one of the progenitors of the Black arts movement. And so it was Tom Fillings who created a picture book called The Middle Passage, White Ships, Black Cargo. And in that picture book, he produced the slave ship as a Black man's body. And so my father kind of tracked him down, said, we want to install this image in our church. Tom Fillings came to the church during the dedication and the unveiling. The rest is kind of history, man. And for us, this is a Christological symbol. In other words, it represents Jesus the Christ, the true Jesus the Christ, right? A Black man who was born at the bottom of the Roman Empire, but who, created the, who blazed the trail, right, of spirituality, of community. And so we follow in his footsteps. Essentially, this is Black liberation theology. And so that's the foundation, philosophically and otherwise, for the MAAFA Redemption Project, which was created in 2017, for Black and brown young brothers in this neighborhood. And essentially what we do is we give them the space to heal and to grow, and we challenge them. And so it's a campus on the church. The church has invested in properties over the years where the young men live and stay. Those who need to get traditional education, so their high school diplomas, we got partners that allow them to do that. We got construction-based education. We just started a landscaping company. We have a resident mental health therapist. We do meditation every morning. So essentially, we're investing in them so that they can invest in everybody else in the community. And so we're creating leaders, community leaders. We're creating the next Chairman Fred, the next Malcolm, the next Martin. And that's what we believe is the solution, is the key.
Not only that, you're creating a Black safe space too. That's something that we are very intentional about over here at Black with No Chaser. And everything that you just listed seems like, you don't have to go outside of here to get what you need. Not only do we have everything that you need, if we don't, we probably have the resources for you to go still within our safe space. So I think that is incredible. But I also want to ask you, how long did it take your father to track him down?
It was God. My father, it was God. My father was at Harvard Divinity as a fellow in 1999. And it just so happened that Tom Fillings was on campus at the time signing those books, the Middle Passage books. And so my father went to the library, got one signed, and, gave him a card. And Tom Fillings, as the story goes, my father said Tom Fillings looked at him like he was crazy when he started talking about stained glass because he couldn't envision it. But when he actually got here, he felt the weight of it, the significance of it for his own soul.
Yeah, man, that's deep. That's rich for real. And I don't know if you've been to the Smithsonian Museum out here in DC. I call it the Black People Museum. Because that's what it is. It's Black history. And so, I mean, you call it what you want, but art, whatever, you know what I mean. But it's the Black People Museum. And so, when you at the ground floor, right, on the first floor, it's that imagery of the boat, right? And I was wondering if some of the like, I guess, inspiration was pulled from, or is there any ties to the person that provided the imagery or the photographs or the art for the first floor when you're coming through, and that actual imagery of the depiction of the Middle Passage boat of the slaves, like, or I would say stolen people, right, at this point,
Right.
who were stolen from their land, the land side by side. Was that part of the inspiration there? And the second thing is, if you've read Ralph Ellison's memoir, and The Dusk Till Dawn, when he talked about America being built upon a Black body and hoisted up on with ropes and stuff like that. I'm wondering if, like, and maybe maybe you don't know in terms of like the inspiration, but it seems to me is there's like a lot of synergy between the abolitionists, the European abolitionists, to Ralph Ellis's book and his memoirs,
Yeah.
to to the brother you brought up. I'm sorry, what's his name again? The brother the artist.
Tom Feelings. Tom
Tom
Feelings.
Feelings. Yeah,
Yeah.
Feelings. And I feel like there's a lot of synergy between those three I guess pieces of imagery, because that immediately came to my mind when you started talking about it. I'm like, yo, this sounds like
Bruh.
something that Ralph, you know what I mean?
Bruh, definitely synergy, but we can't take no credit for it, right? It's divine, it's the ancestors, right? So we see ourselves as a continuum, as part of the continuum of Black liberation, not just in this country, but globally. And I did
Right.
not read Ralph Ellison, but I did read this dear sister, Marimba Ani, Let the Circle Be Unbroken.
Mm,
She was the first to really popularize the word MAAFA, which is Swahili, and it means disaster or catastrophe that has been wrought on Black people all over the world, and even now. So her point is
mm,
the Ma'afa continues, and the only people that can redeem the Ma'afa is us.
mm-hmm,
And so we actually took the brothers to the Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture, and we were there. We were at the bottom, and
mm-hmm.
as I understand the museum, the space at the bottom was intentionally created to feel as if we were at the bottom of the slave ship ourselves, right?
Man,
To kind
I'll
of,
get it. Yeah,
So
you know what I
y'all,
mean?
it,
yeah,
it,
man,
it
I
feels
get
like
it.
that for
Oh
real.
yeah,
I'm
oh
getting
yeah.
chill
It's
bumps because when you walk in, it's almost like because you hear the water, you hear the ocean, you hear the waves
mhm,
crashing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when
yeah,
you walk in, you really do feel like you ground floor, like you yourself are actually in the boat. Like, you get that feel. They trying to bring you there in that place. And if you've never
right,
been, see, you gotta go. But the cool part about the museum is the first three floors are kind of heavy, especially the first two, three. And
right.
then once you get to the fourth, it's like almost like a liberation. You know what I'm
That's right.
saying? Like it gets a little bit more. You get a little more. Not want to say positive, but you feel more like triumphant, if you will. And by the time
Right,
you get to the
Yeah.
top, you got the Barack Obamas, you got Oprahs of the world, like
right,
you got Black excellence, and so it's a
right.
real
It
timeline.
sounds like a real
This,
experience
oh no, for sure.
versus just going through a regular museum and just seeing what's on the wall. Damn,
Yeah,
that's
bro.
Yeah,
deep.
yeah. Designed to reflect our essence,
Mm.
and our essence, um, our inheritance, what our ancestors did, what they endured, right? How the genius of taking um, the brutality and the ugliness of what they had to endure and creating a beauty, right? Beauty of culture, beauty of music, beauty, that's the essence. That's what it means to be Black. And so our
Yeah.
message to the brothers will always be, this is your true inheritance. They may not have left us a lot of money, but what they did leave us is more valuable than money. They left us this richness of history and
Yes.
culture and identity. And so I think what we're battling now is kind of a disconnect. And so when we say Sankofa, it's kind of like that reattachment. And so, in line with
Hmm.
attachment theory, it's the reattachment that produces a healthy self esteem, a healthy self concept and identity. And if you don't have identity in this context, in 2021, in America, under this empire, then you're already lost. You're already dead.
That's right. You
And
better
so,
read Invisible Man.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, bro. Yeah.
So, how was the city of Chicago intended to function, in your opinion?
Wow. Historically,
Yes.
Historically speaking, you know what I mean?
yeah,
We
yeah.
trying to bring the
Well,
people up to speed on, like, why it is the way it
Yes.
is. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
yeah.
what was the original function of Chicago?
Well, I'll answer that question by way of family history, my own personal family history, and how that connects to the broader Black story. and that is the story of the Great Migration, right? So from 1910 roughly to 1970, you had millions of Black folk moving from south to north. And, when we're presented the history of the Great Migration, in school textbooks, we're told that Black folk moved from south to north solely to seek economic opportunity. But the reality is we were refugees. We were leaving and fleeing the terrors of the South. And so we went to Chicago, we went to Detroit, we went to Harlem. And that was my personal family history. My great aunt, rest her soul, she actually lived to be 108. Her name was Mary Pullen. She hit the numbers, and that's how she was able to move to Chicago. And she sent,
That's probably the blackest story. She
bruh.
hit the numbers, yo,
She
and she
hit
was
the
like, "Yo,
numbers, bro.
I'm up out
I'm
of here." You feel
out.
me? Like,
So she sent, but bruh, she sent for everybody else. She sent for my grandfather, E.J. Hatch, and it was my grandfather who met my grandmother, Helen Hatch, underneath the train tracks on Lake Street,
wow.
and the rest is history. But what we're witnessing now, history of Chicago. So because of that, because of the droves of Black folk that moved into Chicago and other northern cities, the way that these cities responded was to basically ghettoize us, right? Or to put us in, for all intents and purposes, concentration camps, right? To relegate us to certain neighborhoods. And those are the neighborhoods that are producing the most gun violence right now. Those are the neighborhoods that are the most impoverished. Those are the neighborhoods
Yep,
that, even in this pandemic, Black and brown folk are dying at higher rates. And so
that's right.
when King came to Chicago in 1966, he was actually invited. There was already a movement of Black folk fighting these oppressive systems, fighting slums. But that's why he came to Chicago, to broaden the civil rights movement, really to nationalize it, and to say that we're not only fighting against de jure segregation, which is legal
Hmm.
segregation, but we're
That's right.
fighting against de facto segregation.
That's
And
right.
we're still fighting now. So that's what we're
To this
battling
day,
against.
the fact of discrimination, man, is honestly, bro, probably what is really keeping most, if not all, marginalized communities really at in the margins. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
really, and it's that's why it's so hard, because the fact of discrimination, because the way the laws are written, it doesn't allow you to really make the straight face claim of de facto discrimination. Even though we can point to it with empirical data, it
Right.
still makes it really, really tough for people to lay claim to it, because, and that's why the federal government right now still doesn't want to lay claim or actually tone or even say responsible for it, even though through every federal policy and the way discriminatory, the disparate effect of those policies, they
Yeah.
still don't want to tone for it, because in their mind, it's like on the policy on its face, de jure, right?
Yeah.
On its face is legal. And so they like, well, we don't know what you're talking about, right? And it's no matter how much empirical data or whatever or qualitative data, what you want to put in front of them, it is like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
no, 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 no. That's maybe some local stuff, but the federal government was never really complicit, in that type of discrimination, and we know that not to be the case.
Yeah.
And it's funny because being from New Orleans, bro, in terms of like the projects, the ghetto, the hood, right? It's like
Yeah.
if my mom used to tell me, man, back in the day, when the Black Panther Party was even in Desire Projects and the Florida Projects and the Saint Bernard Projects. If you familiar with New Orleans, Desire Projects and Florida Projects was literally could have been a city in their own. That's how
Yeah.
massive the two projects were, and they sat side by side. But originally, projects was really for Vietnam vets. It was for folks that was
Mm-hmm.
war vets that came back to have really nowhere to go. But what they knew was intrinsically the people that needed somewhere to go was going to be poor Black and brown folks, and eventually it only became Black folk, and that's really how subsidized housing really came to be in America. And it's like
Yeah.
people say it's not by design, but when you design something with the intent with knowing that the people that's coming back are going to need it, effectively what you've done by way of de facto discrimination is segregate a population of our people. And that's
Yeah.
really what you're talking about, bro. It's like, and that's why I don't know how people can try to get around this and say it should be, bruh. What I be thinking
It's
about that's
no
why
way
it makes me
around
so
it, bro.
upset.
It's
It makes me
not.
so upset, yo.
At
I
all.
feel you though.
It's just crazy.
But we're facing it now, right? This people are getting familiar with the phrase racial reckoning. It's essentially the chickens are coming home to roost. I mean, all of the prophets that this country has slain, black prophets, they were foretelling this exact moment right now.
Yep.
And we're living through it. And so on the one hand, we can think about it as a reckoning. On the other hand, this is a great opportunity. I mean, you look at what happened yesterday in Evanston, right? So-called
That's right.
reparation. I may disagree with how they approached reparations, because it's really a housing policy and it's only
Right.
$400,000, but it's a first step, right? And it's their acknowledgement of the past housing discrimination that they wrought on black folk there, and so hopefully other cities will follow suit.
Yep. Yep. I agree. And I talked about this yesterday, man. About the Evanston, what they're doing down there. I think it's just like you said, a good example of, what communities can do on a local level. I think so often we want the federal government to act, but first of all, federal government is very incremental, just generally speaking, no matter whether it's for whatever policy. But if it's some massive piece of legislation, transformative piece of legislation, reform, if you will,
Right.
it takes a lot to get there. And so if we waiting on the federal government to act, we may be waiting for our lifetimes and the lifetimes of our future generations. And
Right.
so I agree with you. I think it's well beyond just housing, but the fact that there was acknowledgement is a step in the right direction. And
Yeah.
to me though, that also means that once you already acknowledge it, that means that the door is wide open, so we can amend. That can be amended as research
Right.
starts being poured in. We can always go back. So once you say, "Hey, atone," we're ready to atone for whatever has happened in this community, then that means that whatever comes from thereafter or subsequently, then we can have that conversation about that. Which is really what we can't have on a national level, because we can't even investigate reparations, because this country knows deep down that it's been complicit since day one. And so that's what this is about, right? Like once you open the door, bro, they know, bro.
That's true.
Everybody's gonna come talking about where my money at, bro. You're not gonna be able to stop a conversation about. They're gonna be like, "Rep your reppy, baby." Like, come on, man,
Where's
give me my
my
reppy
rep?
check, dog. Stop playing with that. Yo, it's gonna
But
be
listen
crazy.
though, like
So,
that conversation definitely does lead into the next question about, how can the city function better, or how can the city be redeemed? And I think that that's like, once again, a great step in the right direction. Although, yeah, it may not be where we need it to be, but the amendments are definitely going to be necessary. But in your opinion, Marshall, like what other steps do you think needs to be taken for the city to be able to function and for the city to come to a state of redemption?
Yeah. It's such a broad question.
Indeed. Blame Cirillo for that one.
no, but
So,
okay, to make
so
it easy,
hold on, just real
Okay.
quick though, definitely around housing, right? And so we alluded to the history of redlining, right? But redlining is real even now. I think it was last year, WBEZ, a local station, did an investigative report on the policies of Chase Bank, which is the largest bank in America, JP Morgan Chase. And it was 21st century redlining because they only lended to black neighborhoods 1.8%.
Yep.
1.8%. We're talking about billions of dollars. So in terms of home loans, 1.8%. That's 21st century redlining.
For sure.
Right. So around housing, definitely around policing, right? And so we talk about reparations. The city of Chicago a couple of years ago actually took the initial step toward repairing those who were harmed victimized by John Burge, right, who ran CPD and who tortured Black bodies for decades, year after year. And so took the initial step, but the problem is structural. The problem is that the largest police union in Chicago, the Fraternal Order of Police, the president of that, his name is John Catanzara, is an ardent Trump supporter and indeed a white supremacist. When January 6th happened, John Catanzara said that they were well in their right to do it. And he had to walk it back a little bit. But this is the dude who is the president of the Fraternal Order of Police. He represents Chicago Police Department. And in response to that, just real quick, in response to that, Black police officers formed an entity called the Black Public Service Alliance, Public Service Alliance, which is the modern day kind of like Black Patrolmen's League, if you want to think about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to like jump.
Yeah, so they're distancing themselves too. So again, back to the opportunity that we have in this moment. And I believe it's really a short window of opportunity. So we need to maximize it now. So we need structural reforms on housing, on policing, definitely on economic development, but even more important than all of that, the spirit of self-determination. So we talked about segregation, and the civil rights movement was designed really to break down those walls. But we are well within our right to critique that approach now. Maybe that approach doesn't work for us anymore. Maybe we need not be so consumed and concerned with integration. Maybe we need to, reach back into the past and look at Booker T. Washington, look at Marcus Garvey. Right?
Garvey was big on self-determination, man. He was like, look, he was, I don't think he ever flinched or whether or not Black folks would stay together or desegregate or integrate whatever. And the reason why I say that because, I feel like, if you look at Malcolm X and Carter G. Woodson's and the Booker T. Washingtons and the Marcus Garveys and the Martin Luther Kings, the essence of what they were trying to do were relatively the same. But the way in which they were trying to get at it, I think we all can sit here and we can write dissertation on each of those brothers and how they approached it, but notwithstanding the contributions by Black women.
That's right.
Over the years, and like even on their own philosophies and theories about how they got there, and how really how Black women were just used and to some degree even by Black men, and not really to kind of like side. But I feel like sometimes we don't really tell that part of the story about how even though Black men, generally speaking, wanted women to come up through the ranks, they were still given nominal kind of or menial kind of jobs that really wasn't pushed to the forefront. And but that's why I'm glad to see Black women now really having they do, and I have no qualms about paying Black women, supporting Black women, and all that good jazz like that.
The backbone of the Black community is
it's always been there. Always
the most underappreciated American is the Black woman. Has always been, but the strongest as well. And so when I talk about self-determination, it is in the spirit of Ella Baker, right? Who was Ella Baker and Ella Fitzgerald and Fannie Lou Hamer. Like while Martin Luther King was in front of the camera, they were organizing people every day.
They were behind the scene. That's right.
Doing the brunt work, what Ella Baker calls the spade work, which is building institutions, right, that are going to outlive and outlast human beings, right?
That's right.
And that's what matters most. And so I think we need to revive that. I'm glad you mentioned that. I think we need, so in the spirit of self-determination, we need to revisit those ideas, those principles, because only those principles are going to carry us through this time.
So with that being said, though, right? Because I think what we're alluding to is just not only institutions but wins, right? Kind of how we've been building upon the legacies of the people we just mentioned, and thinking about MAAFA and what you all been able to do in Chicago, just so
Yeah,
folks know out there that y'all just haven't been sitting on y'all, you know what, that y'all been out here doing the real work. What are some
yeah.
things that people, tangible items that or wins that y'all can point to that MAAFA is responsible for right now in Chicago and the surrounding community?
Bro, we're building leaders. And so we just launched a MAAFA Leadership Institute, which focuses on health and wellness in West Garfield Park, one of the poorest neighborhoods in the city. And we brought Rush Hospital and Erie Hospital, two of the largest hospitals in Illinois, to the table to create the Fred Hampton Health and Wellness Center, which will be in the center of West Garfield Park. And these brothers are leading it. They just finished a community needs assessment, right, which arms us with the data to make the case for said wellness center. And on top
Mm-hmm.
of that, we're building. I mentioned these brothers are being skilled in the construction trades, and so we're going to finish a 3-unit apartment building actually in about 6 months, where alumni who have gone through and graduated from MAAFA will live at a subsidized rate, and so they will be community leaders. They will. We're hoping that they will even assume public service responsibility. So
That's right.
maybe we'll create the next mayor. We're trying to encourage brothers to become police officers, right? To kind of change that narrative. And
Mm-hmm.
we're a part of the church, right? So we're a ministry of this Black institution. And so we're going to be here because the nickels and dimes that people put in the collection plate is supporting our work. They are our biggest philanthropists. And so I mentioned self-determination. This is us building community from within. We're not looking for a white savior. We're not looking for anybody to come in. We're doing it ourselves.
That's
I
real,
think
man.
that's so real and it's necessary because we don't have enough representation like that in the community to show us that this can be done. So you guys are definitely starting the beginning of a new legacy. Well, I'm not going to say a new legacy because everything that we're doing is just an attachment from our ancestors. Nothing that we're doing is new. So I appreciate that you guys are continuing the legacy. And I think that is very instrumental that you're building a type of housing so that they can have comfort, not only comfort, but, can still be focused on what the mission actually is and
Right.
not have to be worried about other things that, we have to deal with on a daily basis that kind of distracts us from our total mission of everyday life.
Yeah.
So that's amazing that y'all are doing that. And I appreciate that y'all are doing that. Not only that, but I have to make mention of you encouraging them to become police officers because of the fact that we do have to take back our narrative. Not only that, but we have to take care of our narrative. And I think that that is a part of us implementing ourselves back into the police system so that we can be able to control and care for our narrative in the way that's going to make us move forward strong forward. So
Yeah.
I think everything that y'all are doing is amazing. And of course Judas and the Black Messiah is amazing
Right.
too. So I want to ask you what is meant for the people to get out of this movie living in today's society? A
Well,
lot.
well, number one is it's not a biopic, so I appreciate the approach of dear brother Shaka King. It could have easily been, the legacy, the rich legacy of Chairman Fred. It deserves that kind of attention. But what Brother King did instead was he illustrated the dichotomy between Chairman Fred and William O'Neill, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first the first scene of the movie, you got William O'Neill, who is obviously doing criminal activity. He's caught up. He's being interviewed by the FBI agent, and the first question that the FBI agent asked him is, "How did you feel when Malcolm was slain? How did you feel when Martin was slain?" And he gave an indifferent response. That's how the FBI agent knew he had the right one that he could flip, right?
Yep.
And so What is it trying to teach us? It's showing us that our biggest weapon is consciousness. It's knowing who we are, knowing where we are in American history, and knowing our power. If we don't know that, then we are complicit in our own oppression. And so
That's right.
would you rather be William O'Neill? Because when he was caught, they said they were gonna give him 5 years. And that's when they really flipped him. In the movie, Chairman Fred was the same amount of time was given to him on trumped up charges saying that he had stole ice cream. And
Yep.
this is the end. This is
That's right.
toward the end of the movie, right? So he finds himself,
Mm-hmm.
and Daniel Kaluuya did an amazing job embodying Chairman Fred. But at the end of the film,
Yeah, man.
right before he's killed, it's that scene where they're trying to convince him and his girl, who's 37 weeks pregnant, to flee the country. They say you can go to Cuba. They said you can go to Algeria. And he stops everybody and says, y'all trying to get us to flee when we need to be focusing on this wellness center. You know how many people we can save in 5 years with the wellness center? And that showed you right there the his philosophy of revolutionary love, right?
Real, man.
And
Yep.
and that's what we need. That's what it's designed to teach us. And so, like any piece of art, it's designed to show us who we are, our possibilities, our capacity to embrace that same level of courage and to care for one another and not just ourselves, to embrace socialism and not capitalism and individualism. You know, those kind of conversations need to be had right now in this moment.
And I think, and to add to that, because I agree with everything you just said, is like the willingness to actually go into even white supremacist groups that they knew they were poor. Fred was like, look,
Yep.
I'm trying to show you y'all conditions are no better than our conditions. And this is all because of capitalism, right? We can sit here and
Right.
fight amongst one another. And I really believe that. And that's why I think that when you really look at all our civil rights leaders, when they started talking about everybody coming together and then people began to come together and they had a universal message that transcended color lines and color barriers, that's when the FBI and I think the government was like, you know what?
Go.
This guy, no, you gotta go. Because
Yep.
what you were doing is what we'll talk about in the Baker's Rebellion, right? Is that they were trying to really transcend racial lines and try to converge classes and understand that this was a fight. And we talked about this other yesterday, Sika, with the haves and have-nots. And it was just like, nah, we all came together. There can be truly transformative change in our communities, no matter your hue. And he was like, and then I think Fred Hampton really embodied, while he had obviously immense amount of love for Black people and Black communities and that revolutionary love. Part of that revolutionary love, when we look at all of our Black leaders, was really a love for humanity, for all people. And then so when you look at Fred Hampton, the Chairman Hampton of the world, you look at somebody that's trying to organize people across color lines. And I think when you do that, you really can have an uprising, if you will, that can change the world. And so, but it really takes somebody that's saying, I'm willing to remain in the trenches and not sell my soul and sell out my communities.
Yes.
And I think oftentimes what we see is when people get a little bit of fame, or we all on a bus together, but eventually that person gets off. And then it's like, well, hold on, man. Like, where you going? He's like, well, actually, I'm good, man. I'm gonna start my own thing over here. And that's why last thing I'll say is when people ask me, there was a one time DM me and she was like, man, I'm thinking about starting my own organization. And I was like, well, have you researched organizations that's already been started? So that way you can add to and build on the what's already been done. And she was like, nah. I said, man, start there first. I said, because too often we want to be the head honchos, but is it about you or is it about community? Is it about, what I'm saying, how do we define winning? And so a lot of times we think our vision is so isolated and we didn't came up inspired with this idea, but you got inspired by something or someone or some movement. And I think it's important that we always ensure that we look around us and look laterally about what's already been done or what's being done. And so the MAAFA project, if anybody's gonna be watching this, you ain't got to start your own organization, brother, sister. You can go right to the
Right.
MAAFA Redemption Project, man, and tap in and become a leader and get involved right there in the community, and make some change. And you ain't got to necessarily carry the weight of coming up with your own 501c3 status
Right.
and
Right.
this, that, and the
Right.
four. You could just do it right now, man. That's what I'm trying to say, though, man. So I just
Right.
want to say thank you, brother, for all your insight and the work that you're doing in Chicago, bro, because really there can't be enough of a MAAFA redemptions around the
Facts.
country. And hopefully one day it's sprouting up in LA and Oakland and New York and rural America, what have you, wherever black people
Mississippi.
and
Right.
Mississippi. I think it's needed everywhere, man, to be honest with you, bro. So we rooting for you. I'm rooting for you,
Yeah.
you
Absolutely.
know?
Appreciate that. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, brother.
for sure. For sure.
That comes to the end of our time with you today. We thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I mean, Cirillo and I can talk to people all day long. So, with that
Yeah.
being said, we will we'll let you go on about your day. Doing the legacy and the ancestors' work because it's
Yeah.
necessary, and you're necessary, and everything that's going on is necessary. And we thank you for everything that you're doing.
And
It's been
real quick before you
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Let folks know how they can get in touch with you, how they can
That's
donate,
right.
how they can support, all that good stuff like that before you get out of here.
Absolutely. At MAAFA Redemption, you can visit our website, maafachicago.org. Um, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, all of that, or you can come to Chicago, of
Pull
course,
up.
and yeah, pull
Yeah.
up and right on the west side. Would love to have y'all come out, when you're
For sure.
able, and so
Don't
we can
threaten
give
us
you
with a good time. We'll be there.
we'll, we'll give you a grand tour of the whole campus. But this has been rich, y'all. I really appreciate y'all's platform, your mission, your vision, and I thank God for your voices. And so thanks for having
Thank
me on
you.
tonight.
Same, man. Same. Appreciate
Absolutely.
that, brother. Yeah, bro. That's real.
Bless.
Yep.
Right.
Well,
Blessings.
Take care.
So I just left this interview feeling so inspired to do our ancestors' work. So shout out to Marshall for spending some time with the Black Lunch Break today. We thoroughly appreciated it. Now let's get into these bills real quick. Make sure you visit our merch shop. Go shop BWNC gear. You can holler at us on blackwithnochaser.com. You see Cirillo's shirt right there. You can't get caught slipping without them hands, and that's something that you definitely need in your wardrobe. If you haven't ran over to the website, we have buku articles for you to check out. Shout out to Leslie, always dropping some great
buku.
jewels that's gonna be having you laughing. Oh my gosh, knowledge plus laughter, that's what we want, that's what we need. And if you aren't following Black with No Chaser and all of the rest of our platforms on every single social media platform, we need you to hurry up and do that, especially subscribing to us on YouTube. We need
Do it
that
now.
subscription from you. We
Do it
need
now.
that ASAPly. And as always, thank you for tuning in to the Black Lunch Break. We appreciate you, tribe. We love breaking bread with y'all, and we love breaking bread with each other. As always, we're going to get out of here where we think black.
Live black unapologetically.
Unapologetically. We out.
Being that you have such a reach, I thank you for putting me on, man.
For sure. And we always ask folks when they first come on here, man, because it's like a tradition. We started doing this the first season. We started, and the question is right there in front of you. You can see it. What comes to mind when you hear Black with No Chaser?
With no chaser. Pure, hardcore, the real. You know what I
The
mean?
real.
Yeah, man, the essence, the real essence.
Really appreciate y'all. This has been one of the most amazing interviews I've ever done. My job as one of the OGs, and my teachers will tell you, my teachers started Duke Ellington, the first class of Duke Ellington in DC. They were revolutionaries. They were street kings and queens. Glenda Dickerson, I got to give homage. Mike Malone, Peggy Cooper Cafridge, Skipper Driscoll, Charles Organs. Well, he's still alive, God bless. Charles Brown, who saved Ellington.
Girl, what are you listening to? It really actually doesn't matter. What you listening to? Oh, you should be listening to Black with No Chaser Radio, clearly. So forgot about that. Never forget. Right. Never forget. My mistake. Black with No Chaser Radio.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Gotta get to the money. Same shit again on the money. Gotta get to the money. Same shit again.